Hey there, my name is Ben, and this is my run of the Italian Job L.A Heist campaign. It's my first ever speedrun. Essentially, I went onto our speedrun on Reddit, and it recommended to pick a game from your childhood. So I was going through my PlayStation 2 games, and I stumbled across this beauty, something I loved as a kid. I was really into my racing games, Colin McRae, Gran Turismo, that sort of thing. And I loved minis at the time. I was obsessed with the Italian Job L.A Heist film. Believe it or not, I've not actually seen it in many years. So I decided to start speedrunning this on the side. I usually play Super Smash Bros. Melee, so this is sort of a nice change up. And yeah, it's a great intro to speedrunning, I think, in terms of how the game functions. And more recently, some other people have been interested in speedrunning the game, and there's some times up now. So I thought, why not get a rundown, get it recorded, and submit a time. So yeah, here's my current personal best, and just thought I'd do some commentary throughout it, just to make it a little bit more interesting to watch. So the first mission is actually one of the harder ones in my opinion, just in regards to the traffic RNG. I mean, in this route specifically, it requires pretty good, spawning of the traffic, otherwise you just kind of get caught up. I can typically spend like 20 to 40 minutes just on the first couple of missions, as they have quite difficult routes in regards to the traffic, so I end up restarting quite a lot. You'll see me go onto two wheels here just to push through the checkpoint. It just kind of gives you a little bit of a head start because it keeps your momentum. Now, I mean, in regards to the time on this first mission, I'm pretty sure this is the most efficient route, and I actually believe 49 seconds is possible. I average 50 to 51 seconds. I think with good RNG and good driving, 49 seconds would be possible. I'm not too sure if you could speed up much more than that. Now, if you've never played this game before, sorry, I have got some music playing in the background of this now. If you've never played this game before, you'll notice that every mission has a score screen at the end. This is kind of a blessing and a curse. It's frustrating because it makes the run that much longer, but it does give you a chance to have a sip of your drink, change your song, take a little breather between the missions. So, pretty good in that regard, but does slow things down quite a bit. So in regards to commentary, I'm just going to be popping in and out mostly. There's not too many crazy interesting things that happen in this game. There's no glitches or really technical specific things to note, but there are some things to talk about. So I'll basically pop in when it's interesting and I want to make a note of something. So coming up to the first example of the enemies in this game, there's two types. You've got the police or the henchmen. Now, there's two different types of spawns you can get on this mission. I'm pretty sure it's random. I get the better one, as the police cars aren't directly outside of the yard. The other kind of spawn is where they're kind of sat there waiting for you, which can cause all sorts of issues. They either nab you or disrupt the traffic enough where it's just a nightmare to try and get through without hitting into stuff. So yeah, it's always nice when you get that easier spawn. So I think every speedrun game has a mission like this, or at least most of them do. A sort of frustrating mission because you can't do anything to speed it up, and it's reliant on the game itself. Now there's a couple of these tailing missions in this game. Essentially, if you get too close or too far away, you get a fail state, and the speed of the mission solely requires the car to go on its little path to a checkpoint and not crash into anything. Now that happens sometimes, but not all of the time. Because it follows a path and it does kind of take the traffic into account, but it sometimes just drives straight into things. It can be slowed down by those little accidents, which is quite frustrating because there's nothing you can do to speed it up. I spent a fair amount of time trying to discover a glitch or a bug to speed this mission up or skip it entirely. I was kind of had my fingers crossed for being able to drive to the end checkpoint or put the car in a position where it didn't matter where you were on the map, something along those lines, but I haven't been able to find anything. I mean, in regards to bugs and glitches in this game full stop, I haven't discovered any at all really. I mean, I have found bugs where things behave weirdly, they disappear, they kind of fly around, but nothing to speed up the time. I mean, in terms of the glitches, the map is very tightly made. I can't seem to find a spot on the map that can get you out of bounds. Everything has an invisible wall on it. It's very tightly and strictly designed in that way. Even areas of the map where it appears you should be able to jump over something, like a fence or something like that, you can't because there's an invisible wall, which is a shame really, because there's some areas in the game that with some good driving you could make some really cool skips or cuts, stuff like that, and it'd be really cool to see an out of bounds glitch that speeds up the game. I do really like buggy speedruns. I think they're infinitely more fun to play and watch. I mean, in terms of the overall time with the current strategies I'm using, I don't think there can be a dramatic time save, and I say dramatic in regards to minutes being shaved off. There's definitely improvement in terms of the driving and the RNG, which can result in a quicker time than this, and I'd love to see that happen. Hopefully I'd be getting that, not somebody else. But at the moment I don't feel like we can push the game that much quicker. I'm not 100% sure under 44 minutes is possible, but it could be with really solid driving. With more people playing it, there's the chances of finding a bug or a glitch or something that speeds things up is increased, so I do hope we see something along those lines going forward now that there's more people interested in the game. Now this mission, they load your car up with explosives and you have to get back without crashing, otherwise your car's going to blow up. Something to keep in mind is that you can actually slam full speed into a bus or a car and you won't blow up on the first time. However, if you crash into the little destructible items on the maps, the sort of post boxes and cardboard boxes, I'm pretty sure the way they interact with your vehicle is they kind of count as multiple hits, which sometimes is the reason why you slow down quite a bit from hitting them. I've had missions where I've not crashed into anything, but I've touched a cardboard box and it's completely blown the vehicle up. So just something to keep in mind if you're ever playing this mission, just to avoid everything, just to save yourself from getting a fail sort of halfway through the speedrun. So I actually take this part quite conservatively, but there is a way of doing the jump that's slightly quicker. When you come up to the ramp, if you handbrake turn and slide off of it to the right, you'll land close to the entrance. You have to do this turnaround, which is a couple of seconds faster, but it has quite a high failure rate as well. The car will typically like tip over to its side, and if you respawn, you go back onto the top. So if I hadn't saved so much time, I usually try and go for that, as it is a couple of seconds faster, but I was doing quite well in this run, so I didn't want to risk it all. So this is one of the first missions where the difficulty really ramps up. It's a combination, obviously, this tight drainage tunnel with the SUVs chasing you. It doesn't give you very many options for escaping. Now this is a less than stellar run. I do have a few bumps and crashes, but at this point in the game, you're 30 minutes into the run, you kind of have to take them and roll with it. You do sometimes get a completely smooth run, you won't hit into anything. Driving's good and it's great when it happens, but you're just kind of thankful at the end of this mission that you don't get a fail state. The difficulty feels kind of artificial. They put you in these difficult spots, and the AI feels unfair at times, and the spawning is fairly random, so it's difficult to predict or work off a pattern. But it's just kind of a big relief when you do get through these last couple of missions. So unfortunately I do lose some time here. First off, I don't slow down enough on this jump to stop the slow motion from triggering. The other bit being I sort of have some bad driving. I don't really predict this correctly and get hit by the SUV into the wall. However, I think this was sort of a blessing in disguise. Usually, if you run this level perfect with no issues, the tunnel that we're about to come up to, two SUVs spawn in and drive side by side, and you can't get past them, and it usually results in a fail state. However, they didn't this time. Maybe that was because I was running a little slower behind, maybe it was random, I'm not 100% sure. This golf course can cause a lot of weird AI behaviour. You'll see a car spawns in just next to me, just there, completely randomly. If you look in the distance, there's a car flies off into the background. I do have a clip on my Twitch channel where you can quite clearly see two of the SUVs fly off into the sky. I'm pretty sure it's caused by them spawning inside of each other. I'm not 100% sure, but it's quite funny to see. So the last mission's one of the more easy ones. Essentially you've just got to chase Steve, so as long as you're driving safely and you're not crashing too much, you'll be okay. And because he doesn't go particularly fast or take that efficient of a route, it's quite easy to follow him and you can be very safe and cautious, especially if you know where he's going to go. You can sort of cut corners and wait for him to catch up with you. Where the difficulty comes in, or at least what slows the run down, is how he behaves and if his driving's good. Now, it's very rare to see him go through this sort of run without making a few mistakes. Sometimes it's better than others, and what you're hoping is that he crashes into the cars but they get pushed out of the way and he'll continue driving on. What happens sometimes is that when he crashes into things, he won't drive past them, he'll keep just trying to drive through them. So much so, at the start of the mission, if you drive in front of Steve and hold your brakes in, he won't be able to get past you, and you can actually just keep him at the start of the mission and fail the mission because the time runs out, because he doesn't have the ability to, or he's not written well enough to reverse and avoid things. He just kind of drives forwards, which is quite funny, but also makes the last level completely RNG in terms of how quickly it goes. The only thing you can do is, if he does crash into something, you can sort of babysit and ram behind him to try and push him past cars, but for the most part it's just keeping your fingers crossed. Like there, like he crashes into the vehicle, then he does a handbrake turn around it, and it's just slow. Most of the time he'll dodge past things like he has there, but yet again he'll just crash into things and cause issues for you. And yeah, this last level, the way he drove was okay. I've definitely had faster runs with him, but I've also had a run where he crashed so much and caused so many problems that the game's time actually ran out and the mission failed because he was going too slow. You'd kind of think that wouldn't be possible, but it is. So essentially you kind of get taken on this wild drive around the city. It's odd because they had the whole map to explore, but they keep you in this sort of downtown area. They don't take you up by the sort of more residential areas, which is kind of a shame because there's some cool areas on the map that don't really get explored too much. But this is pretty much it in regards to the run. You just sort of follow him around and hope he doesn't do that too often, and then eventually the game ends, and that's it really. So I'm pretty sure the commentary at this point is done. I'll let you watch the rest of the run, and thanks for tuning in.